Wonderful. Well, thank you very much indeed, everyone, for joining us today on behalf of Bullhorn and myself. Today's webinar, we're talking about how to lead a recruitment business leveraging AI, the challenges along that journey and how to overcome some of those challenges as we go. Couple bits of housekeeping for you. You all should be on mute. Hopefully you're all on mute. So if you have any questions at any stage, please pop them into the Q&A box and we'll make sure we get those answered for you. And also to let you know, the session is being recorded today and we'll make sure we'll share a copy of the recording with you all afterwards as well, so you can look back on it, maybe share it with your teams and so on and so forth. We've got 4 great guests with us today. So I'll introduce the guests and we'll get straight into it. So we've got Peter Marinson, who's one of the partners from Vondos. So Peter, thank you for joining us today. We've got Ankur Anand, who's the Group CIO and member of the Executive Council at Nash Squared. Welcome, Ankur. Grant Telfer, who's the Sales Director of Text Kernel by Bullhorn. Hi, Grant. And then finally, James Veal, who's the Systems Innovation Manager at Meet. So James, welcome. And welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us today. I know we've had a bit of a catch up before this today, so hopefully we can make this as interesting as possible for the listeners and share some ideas and insights that they will find useful to be able to take away. I'm going to go straight in with, I suppose one of the things we're talking a lot about at the moment is around why are we using AI? Why has it become such a big and prevalent thing at the moment? And ultimately, I think a lot of people are using it in the recruitment sector to try and solve some of the problems that they may have had in the past or maybe didn't even realize that they had in the past. So I want to go straight into that question about what are the problems that we are in essence trying to solve with AI in our processes. And Grant, just because you're in the top left box on my screen, I'm going to pick on you first, if that's okay.
There you go. So the first thing I'd probably say is maybe stick a question mark in there a little bit earlier. So what problems are you trying to solve, question mark? Then have a look at, how's technology going to help with that? Is AI applicable? And it's hard not to look at it because I think everybody's talking about AI. Every solutions provider is talking about AI. I can talk about some of the areas that we are focusing on. We want to help people extract and summarize more data. So, CV, job parsing, they're obvious areas, but what about transcripts? What about certificates? We want to boost it so that you can search and match and outreach to near human level. So, that's where we want to get things to. And then you should be able to find anything. If you're creating a search, how can AI help to allow you to detect and find anything? I don't know whether now's the appropriate point or later on, James, just to talk about some of the pillars that Bullhorn is looking at in terms of AI. I'll take your lead on that. Maybe you want to hear from some other people first of all.
No, give us a couple of those pillars. Let's start.
Yeah, sure. So interestingly, Text Kernel was acquired by Bullhorn mid this year. I went to the roadshows at the beginning of the year, and it's the first solution provider that I saw that actually broke AI down into specific use cases. And it's changed further. So now we're looking at AI selling, for example. So how do recruiters, people in staffing companies, business development specialists actually reach out in a consistent way, find the right people, engage them well, and be equipped with things like labor market insights and maybe even matching candidates? So that's AI selling. AI sourcing, how do you really quickly find the right candidates, match them to the right jobs, which is the heart of what Text Kernel does in terms of connecting people and jobs, and how do you automate those processes? AI screening is about, well, how do you take things a little bit further and maybe via messaging, a chatbot, SMS, actually allow people to have voice conversations to do further screening, and then you have an intelligent AI agent that can actually help modify the questions as the answers come in from the candidate screening. And then things like submitting, how do you make that better? How do you format the CVs, etc.? And then now on every screen that somebody is operating in, how do you have an AI assistant that interacts and operates with that particular screen? So those are some of the things that we're looking at, and that's part of our roadmap. Some of it, is already coming to fruition now. Some of it is available, but that's certainly where we're focusing.
No, fantastic. Thank you. I mean, pretty much we're talking about everything to do with the recruitment workflows, I think, just from top to bottom and left to right.
Pretty much.
Ankur, if I can bring that over to you, if you look at some of the things that you're doing at Nash Squared, I mean, these are, in essence, these aren't problems that we're trying to solve here as such. Yeah. These are more opportunities that we're doing to allow recruiters and our recruitment businesses to become significantly more efficient than they were before. Talk to me through about what you're seeing about your usage of AI across Nash Squared.
No, sure. So I think just to build on to what Grant said, that we have tried to fundamentally transform how we approach problem solving and innovation. So at its core, AI aims to enhance efficiency, which is what Grant talked about with various examples, accuracy in terms of matching, decision-making process, whether how you predict the market and the job market insights through this. So for us within Nash Squared, the way we are approaching is first part is operational efficiency through the everyday AI, which automates our routine and repetitive tasks. Many of the capabilities that Grant talked about, we are kind of trialing these right now. Some of these are scaling up, which frees up the time of our people to focus more on more strategic and creative endeavors. It improves the client and candidate experience because the more the free time that the consultants have, the better benefit towards the investment to the time on clients and the candidates. Second issue that we are trying to look at is today in the digital world, every single individual is inundated with the vast amount of data that they deal with. And this is where AI helps in processing and analyzing this data at unprecedented speeds. Those are the days are gone where we said that, okay, we've got unstructured data, we can't do with it, and white data is always called as gold, but we can't use it. But today, AI helps you to understand what that unstructured data is, but we need to be conscious about the cost there. So these are some of the areas we are looking at. Third area is customer experience. It's about giving that frictionless experience during the job application process, which improves the satisfaction of the candidates, the clients, and draw in the loyalty. Job market insights, predicting the market for the future, building your business strategies through the predictive analytics is another area where you can look at it. Recently, I spoke at SIA and my CEO as well, where we are looking at predictive analytics to look at how we improve our cash forecasting process and everything. And finally, it's table stake. Innovation and competitiveness has always been there, but today AI is table stake, and embracing AI is no longer optional. So that's for us, it is a strategic imperative. We have to do it, and we are fully excited about, how we can do a differentiated business through this.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anto. And I think it's interesting you touched on the user experience, the customer experience, that frictionless journey. I want to come back to that in a second because it's often a part that we don't talk about much. We talk a lot about productivity and efficiency and capacity, understandably, but we don't necessarily focus on that user experience piece as much. Peter, let me bring you in here at this point because I know a lot of the thinking behind what you're doing is around that productivity piece and that efficiency piece. So have you got any specific examples of what you've done or specific ways that AI has transformed how you're generating more process efficiency, I suppose, and making people more productive in essence?
Yeah, well, I can tell a couple of things around that. I think first, AI seems to be the new thing around the block, but when you look, example, for ATEX kernel, which we've been working with already for around 8 years, and they have AI integrated in their system already as long as they exist. So AI is not a new thing, and it's already helping us around searching and matching for the last 8 years we've been working with Born and ATEX kernel. When talking about efficiency, we are using the WhatsApp integration in ATEX kernel and Bullhorn with AI in there as well. So you can build automations on WhatsApp communication with your candidates. And
Peter, with that, are you finding you've had an increase in conversions off the back of that? Is the market asking you to do that now?
Yeah, well, in Holland, WhatsApp is the main system you use when you are communicating with people. So we have a much higher response rate compared to email or SMS or even telephone. So that's really helping to get in touch with new candidates and increase speed in getting into touch with new candidates. Another thing I'd like to add, because I agree with everything that's been said before, is that AI is making the work of the recruiter, which has become harder and harder over the last couple of years because of the reduced amount of available candidates in the market, more enjoyable. It can really contribute to helping the recruiter do the work they like to do the best. And I believe that recruiters are in the business of people, so they like to help people and talk to people, And with a AI assistant that can communicate in a human level with candidates and assist on that, there's more time available for a recruiter to be in touch with the candidates and clients. So we can already see that happening, but I'm really enthusiastic about what's around the block to what's coming. So that can.
No, absolutely. And Anka, back to you for a second. If we are therefore making the lives of our recruiters easier with all this AI tools that we're giving them, should we now therefore increase our expectations of what their KPIs should be, their targets should be, change their thresholds to make it they have to get a much higher GP and net fee income in order for them to be hitting their commissions? I'm going to get shot for this conversation in a second, but it's worth asking the question, isn't it? Because in theory, AI, the work that we're doing, the work that the Bullhorn are doing, and Textkernel, etc., is making the ability for people to earn more and create more revenue there.
I think it's a very important question that you bring up, James. Biggest challenge in any of the AI initiative is to determine the ROI or measure the productivity improvement. Traditional KPIs are not being updated or reflecting the progress that we are making with AI. So I think it's looking at what are the various aspects of the business that are getting updated. So for example, NPS, is our NPS improving? So are we getting a much better increased redeployment rate? So there are some other, I would say, surrogated metrics that are getting changed as a part of this. Second is, and very important point is, let's understand that any productivity saving is not productivity earned. Okay, there is a productivity lost as well. So the question is that always think through about that. How do we ensure that the productivity that we are earning is being used in a right direction with the right focus of the people? So there's a whole organization change mechanism that needs to be built in. So, short answer to this, traditional KPIs are not the best way to measure the impact of AI.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We across the recruitment network, we've been having some fascinating conversations about the metrics of 2025. So as a recruitment business leader, what are the metrics that you should be putting in place across your business? And actually we've started to realize that a lot of the metrics in typical SaaS firms are the metrics that we should now be looking at across our recruitment companies. So speed to hire, cost of acquisition, cost, customer lifetime value, all the traditional ones that we now bring you back in. I think AI is driving that agenda.
Yeah, it's driving that, and even margins as well. Because when our sales team, our consultants are spending more time with the clients, probably they are focusing more in terms of negotiating on the margins as well. So
absolutely. James, I'll come to you. I want to bring up that user experience piece, if that's okay. Can you give me a bit of an overview of some of the things that you're doing at Meet and with regards to the user experience, the customer experience, candidates and clients, that matter?
So I think in terms of the experience for a recruiter, this is really changing, and for someone that's kind of working in systems roles, it's quite an exciting time. I'm very much kind of focusing on kind of breaking out of the echo chamber, where people don't like systems, they don't like getting involved, and they don't necessarily see the benefit of entering data into the system. By using a lot of different AI tools, we're really starting to shift this. So when somebody can get a kind of monotonous task done for them, or done much quicker, or done to a higher standard, that's where they can really see the benefit of utilizing the systems. Now, we've invested in a few different AI tools, and we're still relatively early on in that journey. But we're looking at kind of our processes around CV formatting, anonymizing CVs, speccing them out to candidates, to clients. We're also looking at kind of the messaging that we put out, making sure it's that consistent quality, and making sure that kind of we're using that rich information that sits in the system to make it as personalized as possible. We're really kind of seeing the standards that candidates are expecting, and this kind of came out in all of Bullhorn surveying as well. They're expecting a more personalized service. They're expecting us to have more relevant information, to find the more relevant jobs far quicker as well. So if you're looking at the user experience just from a recruiter, we're able to elevate their role in the recruitment process. We don't necessarily need somebody doing those boring jobs, that maintenance of data within the system, if it can be supported by AI and it can be aided by the automation that we currently have running as well.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because, we're having this conversation about how AI is making people more personable, more human. And yet, ironically, actually, in some cases, we're seeing the opposite effect happening at the moment. So I think people using AI in a bad way, linked with automations in a bad way, is actually dehumanizing, depersonalizing recruitment. And that's a big risk for our industry if we get this piece wrong, I think. Could I ask, and anyone on the panel for this question, and this came in from Ash actually, as one of the questions, and I absolutely agree. One of the things that a lot of recruitment leaders and business owners are doing at the moment, that they've invested in Bullhorn, they've got their systems in place, etc. They really want to get a return on investment from what they're spending their money on, without having to go outside and go and buy this tool or that AI application, etc. Now, how can you give me maybe some real world examples of how you're seeing recruitment business leaders and recruiters using some of the Bullhorn AI and specifically to really get a return on investment? And Grant, I mean, I'll kick off with you if you don't mind, but if you've got any good real life examples that someone can take away from this call today and go, actually, I can turn that on today. I'm a Bullhorn user. I can just turn it on today and make that happen.
Yeah, so I mean, there are already things that you can do in terms of some of the generative elements with Bullhorn, but I think it's important to come back to what Peter said as well. AI isn't new. It's first touted in the mid-1950s. Some people say even slightly earlier than that. It's taken a long time to come to where it is. LLMs, generative AI is what's really caught people's imagination. But even outside of that, things like labor market insights, labor market information, we've been using machine learning, deep learning, recurrent neural networks to do things there, as well as looking at the LLM side of things. But having that information, normalizing that information, all of those things will add value. So they're already inherent in some of the things people are doing. And I think you also need to look holistically again at things like, it's not just AI. What about the analytics element that comes on top, particularly for people using Bullhorn? What about automation as well? And what I mean by that is that you've got a combination in terms of automation and AI, for example, in terms of the searching and matching, going through a process of, here's the vacancy, let the solution, the system, do the work in terms of matching and finding the best candidates, automate that process, trigger outreaches, whether it's emails or Peter alluded to WhatsApp and some of the capabilities we have there. Find out whether people are interested. Hey, Grant, we've got a great new role as sales director with this organization. Are you interested? Yes or no? I can soft touch a button. So immediately what you have is you've got a list of candidates that have been matched and verified as the best matches through good technology. They've said they're interested. Then the consultants, the recruiters, can get on with what they should be really good at, which is speaking to those people, finding out whether they really are who they say they are on a CV, particularly if they're new to you, and then working out whether they are likely to be a good fit and whether you put them forward to your client. So, AI still is about humans. It's about providing decision-making capability, but you can do that a lot more quickly, and you can take a lot of the more mundane tasks out of that process.
It's interesting. We were looking at a couple of use cases the other day, actually, for people doing different stuff. So as an example, putting the communication log from your CRM system to identify basically at what time of day do you get the best response rates? What's the structure of an email or communication look like, etc. So then if you analyze that through AI, you can then basically go, well, the last 30 days, this is how we've been communicating with our candidate pool or our client pool. These are the sorts of results we're getting. Based on the analysis of that, in the next 30 days, we're going to do things slightly differently to get better conversion ratios. And I think that it's so simplistic in itself, but the impact of that is absolutely huge, I think, which I think is massive. So I'm interested. And any other sort of real life examples that you've seen across your businesses or seen other recruitment businesses implement at all using the Bullhorn community? James?
I was going to say, I'll happily jump in here because I think it's really interesting to think about what we've got with Bullhorn's AI compared to kind of traditional rec tech. I was speaking to somebody about this a couple of weeks ago, just in terms of you shouldn't be scared about getting involved. In terms of adoption perspective, usually we're very harshly assessed on, are people picking it up? Are we getting that return on investment immediately? But because you implement your own LLM, it's very cheap to run in the grand scheme of things. You get charged on how much you use it. It's not an intimidating cost by any means. It's very, very low maintenance, out of the box. You can do a lot. And I think if you compare that against a lot of other rec tech, where you need a relatively high level of investment in terms of training to get people on board and on side, where you need to make sure that people are using it really kind of rigorously, this can be very much something that you can implement at low cost. You can get it across the business, and you can let people come to it rather than kind of trying to sort of force it down someone's throat. So as I when I've implemented this in other businesses as well as at Meet, it's very much something that you can kind of get out to a few people that are very interested, keen to be on the front foot. And when other people see the successes from those recruiters within the business, they'll be drawn to it. And you can continuously build on that feedback. You know, we're now getting to a point we can build our own prompts into it as well. But I think just comparing it to other rec tech, you know, it's kind of quite low cost, and it is very easy to onboard with.
Yeah, absolutely. And we say this to everyone: if you're going out on an AI journey, you start with your CRM system, start with what you've already got, maximize that, get your return on investment, and then go from there. Peter, if I can bring it over to you now, when you look at some of the best, the most valuable, the most impactful AI tools or technologies that you've used, what have you used, and what's made them the most effective tools out there?
Well, I have to come back to what Grant was telling earlier. We use like the Bullhorn automation combined with the AI capabilities of text kernel a lot, and also that connects to what James was telling. It helps us to experiment. We can experiment like all day long. So we are building automations which are supported by AI. And if you want a real life example, we've got the one that Grant was talking about running. That's asking people whether they are interested in a certain job. When the response come back, the automation updates the status of the candidate that's interested. So these kind of things run overnight, and in the morning the recruiter comes back to their desk, and then they see that the candidate has indicated that he or she is interested in a certain job, and they can start calling them and do the thing they do best, is talking to people. We also do this by attracting or updating information within Bullhorn. So for example, availability dates, we ask that if availability date is coming up, we ask via WhatsApp if this date is still applicable. People can answer in any way they want by buttons, or they write a new date, or an AI recognizes this and updates automatically the date in the system. So and AI does the first response back as well, and then the recruiter can take over if necessary. So AI really helps us drive these kind of processes, which is really cool. And enthusiastic. It makes the recruits really enthusiastic that work has been done while they're back home or whatever. It keeps on running.
Well, this is the piece, isn't it? It's about turning a recruiter and a recruitment business into a 24/7 machine, as opposed to something that only works when we're there. And Kira, across Nash Squared, what are some of the technologies and tools that are being most utilized at the moment?
Well, definitely some of the technologies that have been called out, like Bullhorn AI, text kernel, Sourcebreaker, many of the marketplace providers that we are using. But along with that, and I think something that Peter was touching, it's all about bringing AI and automation together. So Bullhorn automation comes into the place. We have also invested into the Copilot Studio, in particular from Microsoft. I think that is delivering some fantastic results as we speak.
And that's Copilot. Have all the team at Nash Squared got Copilots, or?
No. So the traditional Microsoft Copilot is with a limited set of people, which is based on personas, because we see that giving to every single person is not going to deliver the ROI. So we have persona-based capability given to the people. But what I'm talking about is Copilot Studio, which is the latest set of technology where you build your own autonomous agents. You bring in the automation layer, you have the AI skills on top of it. And so, for example, if I've got a market opportunity for a person, I would rather drop this into as an opportunity within Bullhorn automatically through Copilot Studio. It can land into their teams as well. Things like recording the calls, that we have with the clients or with the with the candidates, converting into a transcript into notes, and actionable insights for the people. So that's the magic that comes through Copilot Studio. And the final piece is about predictive analytics, which is we are going big time, whether it's from leveraging the external data through job feed and other stuff, whether it's from text kernel, whether it's about the labor market insights, whether it is about the internal data. And I think this is where building very matured models, that's helping us to predict, how the market will operate, how our business will operate, what our clients' reaction will be as well.
So do you see a future now with AI that we won't need LinkedIn Insights anymore because we can do our own predictive data analytics?
Well, I mean, it will have a place. The question is, LinkedIn will have to reinvent themselves in terms of the capabilities, because 50% or 70% of the capability is going to be, not relevant for the market. So not worth the premium that everybody will be ready to pay for.
Interesting. Okay. We had a question come in, so I want to pick on some of these questions as they do come in, sort of stuff. So I've noticed that much of the AI relies on good, up-to-date resumes being submitted by applicants. Someone who primarily staffs entry-level light industrial positions, I rarely get up-to-date resumes and sometimes get no resumes at all. Is there a quality AI solution that will create good resumes based on basic data entered into an employee file? Have any of you got anything to say to that?
This is a question that we were debating internally as well. There's no perfect resume, and likewise, there's no perfect job description. So how do you create a synthetic data? So that's where one of the foundation pieces that we are working is creating synthetic data. And synthetic data is, so for example, you've got a placement, and for the placement, what are the requirements that are needed, and you have a candidate, you've got the skills that are there. So why don't we do a reverse engineering and create a resume through this? Because it's important to have the specific skills, especially in the high volume staffing, traditional staffing business. It's a hard skills which matter most, right? Plus their certificates, compliance, and everything. All that is captured. So why don't we create a resume, reverse engineer, based on the placement record? So I think that's how I see, it can happen. There's no technology to my best of knowledge, but with generative AI, with Copilot Studio, and with analytics platform, you can definitely do all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. James, let me come back to you for a second. Obviously, this is all about people working hand in hand with AI, right? We're not here trying to replace recruiters. We're here trying to make recruiters significantly more scalable, have more capacity, more productive, etc., and therefore more profitable as well. What are some of the skills or training do you think recruiters need to have in order to be able to effectively utilize AI and have it as part of their armory? Because there is a concern that we've got recruiters who came out of the COVID boom, who were doing really, really well. We then had a period of the last 18 months, 2 years, which has been a tougher market. And that's, I think, exposed some of the lack of skills in some cases in some recruiters. So we've got a skills deficit with some people at the moment who aren't quite fit for purpose necessarily in this type of market. We're now added in or layered in AI, which is another whole lot of skills that we need to have as well. So, what does the future of a recruiter look like from a skills capability perspective in your eyes, do you think?
So I kind of touched upon it earlier about this is all about kind of elevating the role of people. And often we get this scary message of, AI is going to take your jobs. But I think we've kind of spoken about this before, saying that it's not AI that's going to take people's jobs. It's people that utilize AI are going to take people's jobs. So I think it's that, recruiters are going to be moving much more to a stance where they see AI as a useful tool, but one that they definitely need to kind of get on board with. I think it's going to allow people to take on that role where they're a lot more consultative. Everyone's going to have the ability to be a lot more, data literate, because they're going to have technology that kind of bridges the gap between the two. I think that there's also an angle to take on this as well, is that with integrating this AI technology into kind of our normal workflows, it's closing the gap between the technology that people use in their home life and then what they can expect to utilize in the business world as well. I mean, so much of the time I've kind of looked at something and gone, hang on, it's almost 2025. Why is this process, still happening the way it is? Or why is this technology, so basic? Why is the process so manual? And I think by integrating lots of this technology, it really helps kind of get the process to be the path of least logistical resistance, and help people to do the right thing.
Yeah.
When it comes to that training as well, I think it's not just about training recruiters. It's about training the people that train the recruiters and training the people that are going to be involved in facilitating these tools as well. We need that level of enthusiasm that we get behind sales to say, look, if you do this and if you follow this script, or if you, write an email or make a call in this way, you can make the money doing it. We also need that level of enthusiasm around systems to say, look, if you follow the process, if you utilize these tools, it's going to make you more profitable. It's going to make you a far more effective recruiter, and actually, it's going to elevate your job and make it more enjoyable. I think so. The last point, I think Peter mentioned it earlier as well. We need people to be creative, and we need them to fail fast. Try out new things. And at the end of the day, although I'm really involved with our systems, I'm never going to have the same level of knowledge as the people that are doing this day in, day out. They're going to come up with new ideas on how we can utilize AI technology. And then it's my job, and for people in positions like mine to facilitate that, to take the ideas and then to try and make that possible with the technology.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, we're rolling out, well, we've rolled out a program, which is our Future Fit program across the TRN community, the recruitment network community. And one of the skills of a Future Fit recruiter, as we're concerned, is that they're AI literate.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a real fine line here, isn't it? Because I mean, do I want recruiters spending half of their day playing, and I use that word in inverted commas, playing with AI and trying to build stuff and trying to figure out half these things that Ankur is talking about, which sounds so advanced and clever. But when I'm looking at it, I'm going, I don't know what it is. I'm now playing with some co-pilot thing. I don't know what it does and what it is. Or do we just want them to embrace the idea of AI and say, we as an organization or we as whoever are going to be providing them with the toolkit that they need to utilize. We just need them to buy into it and embrace it. Grant, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think quite a big fan of the latter. So what I would say is that the more that things can be inherently done, and AI will be a part of that, that's great. But if recruiters are using AI, I'd hope that there'd be no training or minimal training because it's just inherent in the application or the solution they're using. But maybe if there's one thing, what would they need to be good at? Prompts. Are they asking good questions? And are they refining? And that's a very human skill. It's in all of communication. But depending on how the technology looks in the interface, that might be the element. And you see that when you use things like ChatGPT or Perplexity or any of those things on a personal level.
Mm-hmm. Peter, what are your thoughts around that, about the skill set of a recruiter in tomorrow's market?
Well, in general, when we try to implement something new around AI, in our company, we try to make a small group of people who are enthusiastic about change in general, because I think in general most people are a little resistant for change. At least that's what we notice. So we try to make a small group who are enthusiastic about change, that embrace the change and trying new things, and then bring it to a success as fast as possible. Because as soon as we can share success stories within the company, as these success stories spread around, recruiters are interested about how can I try this as well. That will bring me success as well, and then the ball starts rolling within the company, and it's not costing us much energy to roll out these new innovations within the whole group. So we try to make it small first, and then try to go out to the whole group as fast as possible once we have our first successes with the new AI solution or whatever automation or
And I think that's right, because that's more of a controlled rollout of the process within your business. That I do have a concern about how we are rolling out AI as an industry at the moment. When I think about GDPR as a classic example, we're pumping in data all over the place that has no control or restrictions on it. So in essence, we're sort of breaking every GDPR rule that's out there, I think, just about at the moment. And then we have issues around, we're relying on AI to tell us what we can and can't do and who we should and shouldn't recruit. So that creates that whole issue around bias, etc. Grant, if I can come back to you for a second about how do we as an industry, how do we as recruiters, recruitment leaders and etc., how do we ensure that there are ethical AI practices in what we're doing and we're avoiding all this bias when it comes to decision making within recruitment?
Yeah, so I think sort of each organization needs to look at how they want to approach it and what that means to them. Certainly turning the tables in terms of what we've been doing as an organization, we've always taken a very data-driven approach in terms of AI and what we're doing. If you lean more to the behavioral side, there's potential risk in terms of introducing bias. We've always done things like matching without personal data. So you're looking at skills, you're looking at experience, and those elements. And it will be interesting because There are acts coming out, obviously. We have already audited against the New York City AI Act, and we passed that. And then the EU one will come in, and I do wonder whether both for solution providers and also maybe for organizations using solutions, whether I haven't trademarked it, there'll be a big pause or a big stall as people realize that what they're doing contravenes new AI acts and laws that are coming in, and people unpick it. So it has to be transparent. You need to be able to know how the results that you have arrived. And if you've got that transparency and if you're working ethically, I think things will be good. But yeah, those would be my comments.
And Kieran, and obviously across Nash Square, this is a big, very important part for you guys. What's happening there?
So I think the way we approach was anything that we do with AI has to be based on the responsible AI principles. So first thing first is having a very strong policies around what's allowed, what's not allowed, what's the right practice, what's the wrong practice. Things like when ChatGPT came in, everybody started using it. People didn't knew that what is the data that can be lost, etc. So organizations, and especially like organization like us, we were very particular about how we create the guardrails for these open platforms. And that's important because that's where the data gets lost, right? Yep. Second is just on the lines of ethical guidelines, ensure that people understand the responsibilities that they carry along with the broad usage of AI. And that can come through having processes to mitigate the bias with the diverse data sets of the data that we can use, have regular audits. We have teams which looks at various AI outputs, and analyze whether there have been biases through this. And most important thing that we do in any of the process, unlike automation, there has to have a human oversight. Because there should be no output today. We should be going out to the clients or the contractors directly. So that's very important part. Third area where I would say is the continuous training. The world is changing. The regulatory market is changing. EU AI Act framework has come in. What exactly that means in terms of AI aspects, legal aspects, I think a lot needs to be discussed, debated by the governments. But it's important that we continue to train ourselves, our leaders who are enabling the AI, training the leaders on the front line, who are managing the people, and empowering them to understand that there's a broad responsibilities coming onto them and what are the guardrails that the people need to operate in. Doesn't mean that we should not be using it, but it's about what's right versus wrong. That's important. Another area where I think we have been quite effective is about feedback loop. I think James talked about this point where while we're talking about fail fast, it's also equally important is that there's no perfect technology there right now. It's you have to make it in the iterative way. You need to get the feedback coming from your recruiters, from your sales team, from your compliance team, and everybody, because that kind of feedback is going to help you to continuously improve the system. And last one is about if you don't have it, the moment you start getting into the more advanced part of AI, which is predictive analytics and stuff, set up your ethics committee. Regularly reviews your AI practices, policies, the models that you are going to be introducing, because it's important to adhere to the regulatory requirements. And many of the people who are on the tech space, may not know, the business side may not know, but this committee will have that responsibility to ensure that we are always being compliant to the law and to the safeguarding of everybody as well.
Yeah, that thing you mentioned about the fail fast thing, I think I totally get that. I also think there's an issue with that, or a risk factor with that, because we're trying to get buy-in from recruiters to utilize this AI as much as ethically and in the right way. But if we're failing fast all the time, when we keep failing all the time, they're just going to become disengaged with the concept of using AI within the businesses. And I think it's so important. And there's a question that's come through, and I sort of agree with this, that there's a lot of products out there, there's a lot of AI conversations out there which have created these sort of half-done type, half-baked type things that sort of work a little bit type stuff. There's not that much going on out there that really, really has got this licked in certain areas and certain parts of the workflow. Do you agree that's a concern? And what can we do about that to prevent people from becoming disengaged with AI within our businesses?
We have seen this, James. So in the initial release of the Bullhorn AI, I would say the first beta release that happened, People were disengaged because the output was very generic. They said, this doesn't represent what our business stands for. This doesn't represent what our clients for. So we go back to the drawing board. What is it necessary? Learn, draw in terms of what's the context, and what is the output that you need. And Grant called out very specifically is prompt engineering. You need to have very specific prompt engineering capabilities for this. So prompt engineering is not the only solution. You need to also look at your data. Sometimes you need to train the LLM models to be very specific to your business and to the clients as well. There's no one single solution which can satisfy your needs. So defining, say, prompts by persona, that's important. A sales individual who's working on an enterprise business will have a very different way of engaging with the potential clients versus person who is working in a spot market. So it's very important to identify those personas, have the models trained, or the prompts created to satisfy these. So it's an iterative process. And this is where I've called out in my previous response, it's feedback loop. You need that feedback loop, because through that feedback loop, you're understanding which part is working, which part is not working, and then you're improving it continuously as well. As long as people see there's a continuous improvement, and they know that this is a journey that you're going through, people will buy. And I mean, we are seeing in pockets of areas where people have started buying in, and there's a increased adoption.
Yeah, we did I had a conversation with one of the members earlier on today, actually, and we did some AI work with them off the back of that, and they've had a terrible year. Or a terrible start to the year, I should say, because their market was pretty much decimated. But through the AI stuff that we've done with them now, they basically had their record quarter in their history. It's very bizarre, an incredible turnaround, and the market's come back to an extent, so we're not going to take any credit for that. But the reality is some of the AI stuff that we've implemented has really made quite a significant difference. I know, Wayne, you've asked a question around some actual examples and stuff. What I'm going to recommend is, I know Bullhorn have created a fantastic playbook, an AI playbook with different automations and stuff in there. I don't want to get anyone into trouble, so I'm going to presume it's ready to go. We'll soon be ready to go. So Wayne, can I suggest you reach out to Bullhorn directly and see if you can get a copy of that? I've also got some playbooks and some cheat sheets around some of the AI stuff that we've done, which I'm happy to share with anyone listening into the call as well. So feel free to drop either of us an email. I'm very happy to do that. Let's just close off, because I am conscious of time. And I suppose this is that sort of classic end of a webinar type question is, what tips would you give someone who's sort of starting out on this journey? Because a lot of people are now trying to think about what to do next. What would be the starting point, the tips that you'd suggest that they do? Peter, I'll kick off with you. So anyone who's going on this journey, whether a large organization, mid-size, or even a solo operator in recruitment.
Well, I would say think big, act bold, but start small. So what I'm trying to say with that is that once a colleague told me, you have to act, if you want to become a successful team, successful company with AI, you have to act like you are already 5 years further ahead. So that's what I'm trying to do. Try to imagine where we could be if we are 5 years further, and already start acting on that, but do it with a small group of people within the company, experiment with it, and then do it, then roll out small steps within the company, small successes. So that's what I would say.
Fantastic. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate that. James?
I think you made a point earlier about kind of lots of solutions being half cooked and not quite fully there. I've had lots of conversations with different AI products, and I would say if anyone's starting to do the same, feel free to ask really brutal questions. Put the people on the spot, ask for evidence of successes from previous clients, because at the end of the day, most of us don't have a huge amount of resource on our hands, and if you're going to be the first to something, you're going to need a lot more resource. I think that the point there about that disengagement, it is also an opportunity for more engagement. You can make things more tailored to the people that you're working with. So I'd say, similar to what Peter is saying there, get a group of people who are going to be engaged, take their feedback on board, and try and tailor things to them so that they can see success. And I think the final point I'd make as well is think about with AI, what are the behaviors that you really want to amplify with AI? And what are the things that, as an industry, we already know we don't do very well, and how can we mitigate those? Think about what is the overall outcome.
Yeah, fantastic. Ankur?
My take on this is, don't be on the defensive line of it. Just get started before it's too late. You already got Bullhorn AI capabilities. I'm assuming many of the people already have Bullhorn. So there's a fantastic product. Put in the capabilities around, prompt engineering and get started, guys. Otherwise, it's just too late for everybody.
Fantastic. Thank you. And finally, Grant.
Yeah, I think much as everybody said, just start, embrace it. I have a lot of sympathy for people because having been to a number of events this year, it's almost become comical to try and find the solution provider who doesn't have AI because everybody's advertising AI. So I would encourage people to strongly ask, well, so what? You have AI, so what? Also, how does it hang together? Is it something that fits in with your overall solution strategy, or is it just a point solution which might do nice things but may not provide or integrate the full picture? I think semi-shameless plug, as TechSkill now fully part of Bullhorn, one of the things that we're excited about is the sheer volume of data points that are there, because obviously to do AI well and to do machine learning, deep learning, the more data, the better. There's 22 billion data points that are there. So there's an awful lot. We were already parsing about 2.5 billion CVs a year, or our clients were using our technology to do that with TextKernel. We were also parsing about 450 million vacancies a year across 15 countries. So we had some great data. And going back to the question earlier in terms of skills, we have both skills taxonomies, professions taxonomies, and even an ontology layer over the top that will say, if somebody's in this role, here are the skills. If somebody has these skills, here are the roles that could be useful. If somebody wants to move from one market to another, these are the types of things they can do. That's all an output of AI, and it means that you can sort of enhance the solutions to do that. But having that data from sort of people, candidates coming into the funnel, out to the placements, that'll be really, really good in terms of what we can do with the overall portfolio, and particularly the TextKernel element within it.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much, Steve, for coming on the call. Thank you for those who have joined us today. I think a lot of people are starting on this journey in their AI sort of world and looking into 2025. But to Ankur's point, you're probably a little bit behind the curve if you're just starting out. So you need to get cracking with this. I look at AI as a very, very simple approach. To me, it's about how do we take our recruitment businesses to a whole new level of productivity, performance and profitability. I'm convinced that many recruitment organizations will be smaller in 2025, but will be more profitable in 2025. And I think that's actually very exciting. So look at this as a way of supercharging your businesses as much as anything else. And certainly the stuff that I know that the guys at Bullhorn are doing at the moment around this is pretty incredible stuff. They're doing a lot of the work for you. So speak to your Bullhorn team, speak to your Bullhorn account managers, look at their playbooks, and make sure you're utilizing what they're developing for you, and that will get you absolutely going on the journey. So Peter, Ankur, James, Grant, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us today. Thank you to Bullhorn for hosting today, and I look forward to catching up with you all very soon. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.